Good morning. What I want to do here is a little bit of a review of Chapter 2 to lead us into Chapter 3. So, Chapter 2, I did a lecture on motivation, and then we had, you saw Charles Duhigg's TED Talk about the power of habits, and in the textbook chapter, there was information on the power of habits. And I want to get back to it because I want to make sure that everybody understands really the title of the book, The Power of Habits. So let's take a look at this, just a review. The mouse, the rat, whatever it is, the rat is in a maze. Oh, I hate rats. Here's a click. It runs through the maze. Well, it actually doesn't run, as Duhigg said. It kind of wanders. It's looking left and right, sniffing at everything. Okay, so we get this. So basically what happens is, when the scientists were doing this experiment, they had electrodes implanted in the rat's brain. And what they found was, here's the first couple of times they did it, a lot high brain activity. The click, there's a real spike, and then it goes to the first section, a lot of activity, goes to the second section, a lot of activity, finds the chocolate, huge spike. I think I would do the same if I found chocolate. Now, after several rounds, when the rat had been doing this over and over again, you see there's still that spike with the click. There's still a spike with the chocolate, but there's low brain activity in the middle. Right? Why? What's going on? Well, as Duhigg explained, and as I put in the chapter, the rat was forming a habit. And when a habit is formed, a part of the brain that's called the basal ganglia is involved. And when the basal ganglia is involved, there's not a lot of, as it says, any habit executed by the basal ganglia is less taxing on the brain. And that is why the brain activity is low. So, great, this works for rats, but what does this have to do with us, human beings? And I want to say I agree with people who said in order to get to success, you have to be motivated. And people gave good examples. They were motivated to stop smoking. They were motivated to come to college. They're motivated to have longer lashes. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that were mentioned. Okay. And I fully support the role that motivation plays in moving us towards success. But every day, do you now get up and say, yeah, I am motivated to do this, right? Remember the Zig Ziglar quote? People complain that motivation doesn't last. Neither does bathing. That's why we recommend it daily. All right. And people have talked about, I had this great habit. I did this, and then life got busy and I stopped doing it. Well, why did you stop doing it? Your motivation was low. So let me tell you a little story about me to illustrate this point. What are we? We're in November. Approximately a year ago, I decided I set a goal. I want to be healthy. Obviously, very vague. Definitely not a SMART goal. What goes into health? Okay, so I decided I would try to get a regular sleep habit, and I would exercise more, and I would cut back on caffeine. That is not working very well. I would try to be more mindful of what I was eating. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And as I said, the caffeine reduction is not going well. But something that's going really well for me is getting exercise. And I had read the Duhigg book, so I decided, let's make this a habit. So before I go to bed, right by the side of my bed, I have my sneakers. I have my yoga pants, t-shirt, sweatshirt, and everything that I need. And so when the alarm goes off, that's the click, right? I don't even think. I get into my exercise clothes, I get my water, make sure my Fitbit's on, and I go out and walk, right? It's not always at exactly the same time because I know based on me, I am a morning person. I'm much more energetic in the morning, so my alarm is set usually about 15 to 20 minutes before sunrise, so that by the time it's sunrise, I'm out the door. And as I wrote, trying to remember, I wrote in a response to somebody's discussion, I am not, every morning I'm not like, yeah, you can do it, let's go walk. My brain is not even involved. It has become so much of a routine that I am out the door and down the road before I say, man, I don't really want to do this. Oh, I'm already out the door. I'm going to keep going. So those of you who have used motivation as a way to get you started in something, probably without even realizing it, have created some kind of a habit. And what I want to do is to encourage you very much to create habits that will make you a successful college student. I get it. People are working. People have family obligations. It's really tough. But if every day you have to motivate yourself and you have to figure out when in your day you're going to do something, it's very challenging. A lot of high brain activity, which is going to make you tired. And I'm a big believer in brain activity, but what can you do to make your interactions with school, with college, and the material more routine, more of a habit, so that you don't even have to think about it. You can just do it. All right. So I just want to, now we're going to kind of transition to the third chapter. Here is a little diagram of the brain, and you see that there's what they talk about a lot is the basal ganglia. So in chapter 3, and maybe I should have done this before chapter 2, I'm not sure, we talk about the brain. I'm not, my science has always been I'm more interested in plants than in anatomy, but the chapter 3 is called The Brain, Mindset, and Choice. So what I have, is a very, 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 very basic diagram of the brain. So if in high school you took a science class where you learned about the brain, this will be familiar to you. If you haven't, and you might take a course called human biology or general biology, or you might take a course, if you're in the kind of the medical track, you might do anatomy and physiology, and you would go into much, much more detail in the brain. Okay. This chapter, what I tried to do in this chapter was set it up so that you would have a little bit of an idea of what it will be like when you're taking a class like a science class, even like a psychology or sociology class that is very vocabulary heavy. So let me scroll down a little bit and show you that here are some of the terms. Oops, I skipped. The cerebrum, the diencephalon, the cerebellum, the brainstem, the hippocampus. These are words that you have to know, not because they're crucial to FYE, but because this is part of what goes on in college, and one of the things that I'm doing in this class is introducing you to kind of college expectations. So how will you learn these? Maybe you're not going to learn them forever and ever, but let's say you need to have these memorized for a test. What can you do? Some people, myself included, I'm old school, I like flashcards. I like flashcards because I can put them in my pocketbook, and I'm sitting in the waiting room, waiting to get my eyes examined. I can pull them out and I can quiz myself. I know there is something called Quizlet that you could use. Whatever it is that you do, I want you to make sure that this is what you're doing when you're looking at chapter 3. You are doing your best to memorize what these parts of the brain are and what their function is. Sip of coffee. I know, I'm bad. Okay. The second part of chapter 3 is on mindset, which I referred to a little bit in chapter 2 when we were talking about goals. Carol Dweck is a psychologist. She worked, I think she's still at Stanford University in California. And she spent a lot of time looking at the brain and what our mindset is. And she has come up with two terms called a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. If you're interested in, read the chapter. If you're interested in learning more, certainly Google her. She has a TED Talk. I opted not to show it she's not an engaging speaker. Her topic is interesting. I don't find her delivery especially interesting, but certainly go out and look at it. So as you're reading, I want you to think about the idea, do I have a growth mindset or do I have a fixed mindset in this specific instance? I don't think there's anyone who is growth mindset for every single aspect of their life or who's fixed mindset for every single aspect of their life. It's not an all or nothing. Right. And then the last section, once you think about mindset, this leads right into something that is called locus of control, where we're talking about choice. Do you believe that your life is determined by forces external to you? Do you have an external locus of control? Or do you believe that you have some say in the matter? You have an internal locus of control. So let me use an example about this COVID pandemic that we're in. There's the COVID, the coronavirus is. I cannot, there's nothing that I can do about the disease itself. There's nothing you can do about the disease itself. That is external to us. What we have some control over is how we behave. Are we going to wear a mask? Are we going to avoid gatherings? Are we going to go to a bar and hang out with a bunch of people without masks? Are we going to... So while certain things in the world are external to us, we can't control the weather. Well, that was my brother's big thing. Oh, it's going to rain. I'm like, great, let me use my mind to control the weather. So there are things that we cannot control. Do you believe that there are things that you can control? So that's the last part of this chapter. Before I sign off, I want to encourage everybody to please spend some serious time in the discussion responding to people. When someone posts, they post their original discussion and then you go in and you respond, please don't just say, oh, I do the same thing and here's my example. That's great. That's a good start. But then what? How can we move this a little bit further along? Okay, so I'm encouraging people to ask questions in the discussion that they would like the people who respond to answer. And I would like you to go back. So the discussion is due, I'm looking at my calendar, on Tuesday, and the responses are due on Thursday. So I encourage you to, when you go in on Thursday to do responses, see who has responded to you. And if they've asked you a question, please answer it. Okay. As always, if you have any questions, please get in touch with me. You can send me a message through Blackboard. You can send me an email through email. You could send me a text message. And if you would like to have a meeting in Blackboard Collaborate, we can certainly set that up. So I hope you're having a great day and that the weather is great and that you have a wonderful week.